Today is Sunday. Happy Sunday. My name is Pastor Chris. I'm the Family Life Pastor, and hopefully I've seen you today. This is actually Wednesday for me, but first of all, if you're listening or watching or reading our devotionals on Sunday, kudos to you, because you're getting a sermon, some worship, and some devotionals, so you would get extra awesome special points if I could give them out, but I can't. I'm really excited about today. First of all, if you haven't listened to the sermon from Pastor Daniel, I want you to pause this, maybe bookmark it or add it to your watch later or read later if you haven't listened to a sermon yet. And if you've already missed the sermon during our services, it usually goes live by Tuesday at the latest. So listen to it online, shawneelines.com, and then come back to this, because I don't want to trump or preempt anything that he says. But hopefully this is posted after you've already been at church, and you might be interested in this. So I'm going to be reading. I don't know exactly what text he's reading from this week. That's a surprise to me, but I'm going to read to you what I think is so important about the foundation of the church. And what's happening here is that Peter is having interaction with Jesus, and Jesus comes to the region in Caesarea, and he asks his disciples this, and we're picking up in Matthew chapter 16, starting in verse 13. Jesus asks his disciples, "Who do the people say the Son of Man is?" He's referring to himself, to Jesus there. They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others say Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. But what about you?" Jesus asked. "Who do you say I am?" And Simon Peter answered, "You're the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter." And Peter means rock, by the way. Think big giant boulder, not like the pebble that gets into your shoe. "And I tell you that you are Peter," he changes his name here, "and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not overcome it." And then he gives an authoritative statement to Peter on behalf of the church. And so, first of all, if you're just catching these devotions beginning now, this whole week while I'm doing devotions in the month of October, for Pastor Appreciation Month, instead of asking you to give me something or to think about me, instead of that, I want to try to do an experiment, and that is to talk to you from the perspective of a pastor looking at the church. It's a little bit different when you are on the other side of the stage or the platform, and you're looking at a group of people that we call the church, that we're called to love and to shepherd and to care about. You start seeing things a little bit differently sometimes. And one of the things you see differently is a text like this. First of all, and I'm serious, if you haven't listened to Pastor Daniel's sermon, you need to stop this and go listen to that first, and then come back. A lot of the Roman Catholic Church, for example, is going to say that Peter is the rock that the church was built on. They would call him the first pope. And where each pope gets his authority is this line of succession, starting with Peter, that supposedly is unbroken, and it goes from Peter to the next guy, to the next guy, to the next guy, until all the way till you get down to Benedict, or the new one. Really nice guy. I don't know him, but he seems really cool, and he loves babies and being with people and caring for the sick. And so kudos to this guy. But the idea is that there's this line of succession unbroken from Peter. But what I would argue here is that Jesus isn't saying that Peter is going to be the foundation of the church. I mean, no human being can be the foundation of the church, because human beings die and they're fallible. And certainly Peter was fallible. I mean, a little bit after this, the guy starts chopping people's ears off. And then he kind of gives up on Jesus and goes fishing instead. So Peter is not the rock to which we built the church. But instead, listen to what Peter says before this. Jesus looked at Simon Peter and he said, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter answered like this, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." The Messiah being the Savior of the Jewish people, and now, of course, of you and me, the Gentiles. So he says, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And then Jesus responds, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Judah, for this wasn't revealed to you by flesh and bones or by blood, but by my Father in heaven." In other words, it's divinely inspired knowledge. "And I tell you that you are the rock, and on this rock I will build my church." And what Jesus is really referring to is the statement that Peter makes, which is, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And on that very statement we build the church. Not this church, the church. If today you were in church, you saw a building with walls, with music and equipment and lights and all kinds of wonderful things, but the church are the people of God. And the people of God come together to worship in a building that we also call the church because we're terrible at naming things. But more importantly, the people of God are the church. And on that foundation, we build everything else. So it's really important to me because what foundation is a church really about? Because sometimes it's worship style. Sometimes it's more about, are you worshiping with the songs I like, or in the style I like, or are you preaching in the style I like? We talked yesterday about the 103-year-old woman in Georgia who split a church because the pastor was preaching as a holy sanctified minister instead of as a Baptist, and so the church split. It's tragic. It wasn't a big church to begin with, and now there's no unity at all to be had, and they don't even have a pastor there anymore because the pastor left. But they didn't split on who Jesus was. They didn't split on, is Jesus the Son of God? They split on preaching style. Or, a lot of times the foundation of our church is what version of the scriptures we read. I read from the NIV. When I study, I read from the NASB. I preach from the NIV because most people have it. I sometimes talk to teens using the NLT or even the Message, which is a very loose paraphrase in which you can read that Jesus said, "Hey guys, what's up?" It doesn't matter so much what version we read. It matters who is Jesus. But we build churches on that we say that we're a traditional church and we use the King James Bible, and of course that's the only right Bible, even though it was written about 1600 years after most of the original books of the Bible were written. We mess it up. So again, for October, we're looking at this from the perspective of the pastor, and for me, the church has to be built on one thing, and that's who Jesus is. If Jesus isn't the Messiah, if he isn't the Son of God, then everything we do here is pointless. Let's just turn it into a Rotary Club and do some bingo on Friday nights or something like that. But if Jesus is who he says he is, and that changes everything, and that changes who we are, and it establishes who we are as a local church and who we are universally as the Church Catholic, not Roman Catholic, but the universal church that is all believers in fellowship. And what do we have in common? We believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, the Son of the living God. We have built ourselves on this foundation, this rock. So here's my challenge to you this Sunday. I don't know why you came to church, assuming you came to church. Maybe you skipped out. Maybe you said, I'm not going to church today. Instead, I'm staying home and we're doing PJ church, or I'm watching cartoons with my kids, or I'm playing video games with my kids because I haven't seen them all week. I don't know. But if you came to church, or if you come to church at times, why do you come? Do you come because the music is so amazing, it's so perfect, it's so awesome? That's great that we brought you in through great music. And Pastor Daniel, who's on the other side of the wall from me, Daniel the Younger, does amazing things with a guitar in his voice that I can't do. And it's worth coming and seeing. Do you come for great preaching? I missed being under Pastor Daniel the Older's preaching when I was in Dayton pastoring my own church. I miss listening to anyone beside myself because that gets really boring really quick. I miss those things. Do you come because we have great children's programs? I think we have the best children's pastor in the world. I think we have the best children's programming in the world. But at some point, we have to ask, what's the foundation? Is it our kids' ministry? Is it our love for families? Is it our worship music? Is it the way that we preach? Or is it Jesus? And if it's anything other than Jesus, then all of a sudden, the things that become non-negotiables aren't serious. The non-negotiables become how we do things instead of who we do them for. And at that point, we've lost something. So my challenge today is to be a little bit introspective on what do you value in your church, whether it be Shawnee Alliance or any other church. Do you value the style or do you value the purpose? And if the purpose isn't Jesus, and if it isn't proclaiming that truth, that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of the living God, if it's any purpose beside that, then I would argue that really you're looking for a glorified or spiritualized country club. And instead, I would challenge you, how does that statement, if it is true in your life, how does that change everything? And I believe from there, great things happen. Thanks. It's Sunday. Go spend time with family. If you're in high school, I'll see you at 6:30. We're going to have a great time, and we've ended our Ask the Pastor series, and instead we're moving into Coffee with Jesus. It seems appropriate that I would give you coffee. However, I feel conflicted about sending teenagers home to their parents with coffee at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. So I look forward to having that time with you. Pastor and David and I will see you tonight. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow for our morning devotions.